Good afternoon, this is Oxinity channel on education. Over the past 3 years, we've been building a different company, not only different from what we used to be in the past, but different from other language institutions. And that refers to three main issues. Our system or our product in the first place, the business model, and how we interact and how we see the teacher's role. So today we're going to talk about the Oxinity identity, and we're going to do it with Wylie, Graeme, and we have also Coral Hall and Anna Kramarenko and Miroslava Menderova. We have her voice.
Hi.
Hi, Mirka.
Hi.
We are not going to see her, but we hear you loud and clear. And my name is Radmila Gurkova, so let's get started. So guys, in the first place, we're talking about our identity here as an organization. I wanted to ask you, do you know or can you guess or can you figure out what our vision is as an organization in Oxinity?
I guess it's so that anyone throughout the world, whether in online or in person, can teach using materials that have been created by a big bank of teachers that we have who are certified, validated with a lot of experience, and we can all channel that through the same system.
Exactly. So we all speak a language, at least one, in many cases even more, but at least one. We have one native language. If we're given the right tools, we can teach it. That's what we need. Okay, and our mission as a company is to provide all the technology for teachers and all the guidance for teachers so that they find it extremely easy and so that they have more time, or let's say that to take away the preparation time so that they have more time to teach and therefore increase their outcome. Okay, so before we start, or my first question would be, how can we recognize an Oxinity teacher? Is there such a thing as, can you spot a teacher, an Oxinity teacher?
What makes us
Easily?
who we are?
That's a sign.
It's a clear indication.
Yeah. I don't know. I get it. What would you think, Rob?
Well, I guess we have got merchandise and stuff like that, but I guess people can recognize us from the start with this. But I guess that the classes, we've all using the same material, but we've all got our kind of unique style, but we're all using the same product. And I think the product, because it's unique in the fact that it's not the textbook, it's created by ourselves. From students' point of view, they can recognize an Oxinity class pretty quickly.
We all have a similar way of doing things, don't we? I think it's hard to identify us physically, when you see us. But I think when we start teach, we all teach a very similar way. We all have different methodologies that we favour, but we're all very communicative. And we do focus on speaking and listening skills more than anything else, right?
Coral, for instance, you wrote a blog post. Actually, you inspired this talk today because I was inspired by your blog post about what makes Oxinity what we are. So, what is your perspective?
I think it standardizes us. I think it maintains a quality control that is across the board, from the activities, the questions, the teachers' tabs, and it sets us guidelines on how to teach and make sure that the activities are covered correctly.
Okay. And Mirka, you're top, maybe number one in all the rankings, that according to your students, always. So what do you think, what makes you such a great teacher?
Well, that's hard to just give you one thing that makes you a great teacher. I would say it's a mixture of it all. Well, from what I know, from what my students told me before, some students expressed that they like the way I explained the structure, for example. And I'm thinking maybe that perhaps comes from the fact that being by myself had to learn the structure, let's say, hard way, let's put it this way. And therefore, maybe I'm able to offer a different approach or perhaps clearer grasp of the grammar. I'm really not sure, but I think, I have is one rule in general in my life. Like whatever I do, I try to do the best I can. So I don't take this as just a job. I mean, I really want to be good at it. Although I have to say, I'm not 100% sure whether I am going to be a teacher in 3 or 5 years' time, but I am a teacher now, and that's a commitment for me. For me, it's like a signature, right? Whatever you do, you should really do it the best you can. So an important part of it is really the commitment, I think. And I don't know. I mean, I like to interact with students the way that I take interest in their lives, and I feel for example, for instance, if I feel telling them something personal, meaning, let's say, I don't know, I can see they had a bad day, I lift them up. I don't know, maybe sometimes they need a little bit of encouraging. I do that, instead of just saying, oh, sorry to hear that, I really try to, encourage them or lift them up. So I guess this is one really good thing in every class. If you have a student where they'll be able to be happy, or they'll be able to be in a good mood, I think that's one way to do it, because then it's a completely different thing.
Okay.
When you have a happy teacher, you have a
Yeah,
happy
it is
student,
true.
so it's,
You
yeah.
transmit. Yeah, you pass it on to them. That's true, but it goes beyond just how you interact with them, because what I can observe from a side is that, for instance, the way you use the system. So you said, I'm not explaining grammar in the traditional way. How do you do it? How do you make grammar easy for them?
Oh, well, I understand classes have to be dynamic, right? So I normally, 90% of the times, I start to teach the pronunciation just to get it out of the way. So pronunciation exercise, if there is one, I mean, we'll read it, tongue twisters, whatever. And then the next thing is to talk about a topic. So I pick a topic, and then within the topic, I try to include sort of a structure, and I try to, let's say, include a vocabulary from other activities in order to go through as much as possible. And so this is how I do it, because then we are able to go through much more than if I just say, okay, so next we're going to do this, okay, next we're going to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like to make it more natural. So
Okay, excellent. So,
sometimes I have to say that for example, sometimes we get stuck doing one exercise for too long, right? And that happens with some students. They need more time, but in that case, I prefer to change the topic, give more explanation and maybe examples in an email afterwards, and mark the activity with red face to be sure to come back to it with the student at some point in the future. So what's
okay.
the point of doing one thing that goes wrong? So yeah.
Great, great. And Anna, for instance, from the trainer's point of view, if you were to give someone very, very quick indications on how to be successful in a class, say a new teacher, someone that doesn't know the system so well, what would your instructions be?
Well, the first thing I always tell all my trainees, I think that yes, you have a class ready to go, right? You have a class plan, you have all the activities, all the instructions. So it sounds like perfect plan, right? So you just have everything, you go and teach. But again, if we only needed the system to be a good teacher, we wouldn't need any teacher. I mean, this way we would use any robot and that's it. What really gives a system the quality, I think, that is a personal input, right? So we use a teacher in a personalized way, and this is what makes us the best teachers. That I always tell my trainees that one good thing is to have a system. Another good thing is to know how to use.
Exactly.
Basically, the first indication I think is like for everybody, I guess.
So, of course, preparation is key here. We've been repeating that many, many, many times. But again, if we were to say, look, the class will go well if you do this, this, and this, of course, we have to be, as Mirka said, we have to really empathize with the student, but what they can do and will go fine and shouldn't do because it won't go so fine. What do you think, Graeme?
I just think like I really liked what Anna just said there. It's like you have to learn how to work with the system. I think if you're not careful, you can be handcuffed and constricted to teach if you don't learn how to use the system properly, you can feel the system controls you rather than the other way around. And the fact of the matter is that we've created our system. It's all teachers who've come at it with different angles. So it is quite, organic, and you can work with it. You can change the vehicle, the way you deliver it. I always think of it as a syllabus, and it contains the materials I need to teach any methodology I wish to use with a student. The methodology, there's two different terms of it. The methodology for Oxinity is to be very communicative. As teachers, we can apply any teaching methodology to any of those materials, and they're written and said in that way so that we are free. You've got to learn how to, there's the material and there's the student, and we're the bridge in between that. So we have to be able to, take cues, vibes from the student, work with the system, and make it flow. I think Lana says right. If we don't know how to use it, then it's just a system.
And you, Rob, what would you say a person should do or shouldn't do?
I mean, well, should do, be punctual, on time, quick questions, all that we all do in common. I think a person should use the material and maybe adapt it, which I know will come on to things that people do, and yeah, maybe it's easier for the teachers who've been here a bit longer, we're able to do that. But yeah, I think adapting, as good as the material is, I think we all put our little spin on it and we adapt it very well. So again, I think that's something, maybe not that we should do, but that we do.
You got to keep it smooth, right? At the end of the day, it's just when we get the system, it's just words in front of us, and we have to take that and bring it alive.
Yeah, it's like Miroslava said, right? About not just now do this, then this, then this.
Yeah.
She uses the material and links it smoothly, and and wraps up nicely at the end.
Totally.
Right. So knowing other systems, because there are some sound systems that people recognize, and can you name some?
Do you want me
Graeme?
to?
Yeah.
Well, the most famous one I think in Spain is the Vaughan or the Vogan system, depending on how well you can pronounce it.
If you're Spanish, or
he's I think he's probably the most famous teacher in Spain. And his style is, I would never criticize him. I could critique him if that makes sense of the difference in the meaning. But he literally has a kind of glorified version of the Callan method that he works with. Yeah. And it has results, it really, really works, but it doesn't work with every student. So it's not going to appeal to everyone. You tend to have a fairly good level of English before the Callan method really takes off. And I must admit, the homework that I've seen that he creates is phenomenal. But the teachers that work with that have to teach a certain way, and it's all triggered. Whereas working with the Oxinity system, you can use the Callan method if you want. You can use TPR. You can use direct method.
Everything
you can do anything you want.
Anything, exactly.
You're not
Actually, it's absolutely recommendable to use techniques and to get inspired by other systems. I love, for instance, some practices from TPR, from Suggested PD. In any case, when we talk about a system with a name, we can immediately relate it to having certain characteristics. That's why I was asking, what are ours? Where you see our characteristics. But I think that we have a testimonial from Mark that has described it very well, if you can read. Rob.
Yeah, so he's described what it means to him to be part of Oxinity. So it means it's part of a living organization that is always growing and developing according to the needs of its customers. The aim of Oxinity is set down by its founders, and in a way is something that a prospective teacher will either get or not. It is not for the teachers to seek to define what the company stands for, or indeed to try to dilute or redirect the principles on which it was built. Oxinity constantly evolves, adapting its core principles to the level, pace, individual needs and goals of its students.
Yeah, this is true. And then he has an interesting insight on the mission, because I opened this conversation saying that it is our mission to help teachers achieve their goals in terms of getting great material and having tools and getting students and promoting themselves. But I think that Mark says something different regarding the mission.
Yeah, so he says that maybe the mission statement should focus on the client or the student and what we provide. So the teachers and the methodology are the vehicles. The mission should be to fulfill our reason for being, with the associated aim to provide the teachers with the tools to fulfill that goal. Go on.
No. I was saying that he has a point, because eventually our ultimate client is the student. Without the students, there is little we can do. But it is through the teacher that we also empower the student. By empowering the teacher, we empower the students. All right, Coral, was there anything in your blog post that you mentioned, and I think that you made some great points there. Can you remind us?
Yeah, I think it's nice that we all have individual traits and that we're creative teachers. And I think we all bring something specific to our classes, something that nobody else can. However, I think what makes us unique from teachers outside of Oxinity is the activities, is the structure, and is the way that we work. It's not a typical textbook, and you can adapt. You can motivate the student in a variety of different ways. And I think that's really important, especially for me when I'm teaching to different levels, different ages. And I think the activities are suitable for the levels, and it has a structure, but it's just it's not boring like a textbook. It gives us space to have fun and create a fun lesson. And
I mean, I've never taught with just a textbook, but the idea of it for me is super boring. So then, what is it like for the students as well?
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely. So when you guys use the Oxinity system, do you feel safe? Like, do you rely on it as something that, I can always refer to it. I know that there is always something good there.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Have there been cases where you panicked because you found something that it's, oh my god, I cannot teach that?
Yeah, but I've always found it.
It's a classic.
Yeah, there's been certain things that have popped up, and it's like, maybe I'm not going to teach this with this specific student. Maybe but maybe that activity I would be able to teach with another student. It kind of, maybe it depends on the student, the situation.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the things that we've often debated with teachers when we've met, is that there's certain material that someone says written, and other people are like, I would never teach that.
Yeah.
Like I love teaching bad language in English, so I create some like that. But that's fine if you find that and you don't want to teach it. You can just move on and get the next one. There's a really wide array of stuff that you can pick and choose from.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of always had little talks amongst ourselves about, maybe you see a text with a bad word, let's say, and it's like, for me, I'm quite fine to leave it in there, but I do understand there would be certain people who would maybe feel a bit uncomfortable and then maybe have changed the word in the text, but I guess it just depends on each person, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we set limits to it? Should we put an instruction there? What do you think?
I just read it in advance. If the material's there for you and you've read through it and there's a swear word in it you don't want to use, I just don't use it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't, in terms of setting limits, I don't think we should set limit.
Nah.
No.
No.
Like you say, if you're not comfortable, don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay, and would you go back to a non-digital format? Now, if I put a textbook in front of you and the system that you're currently using, what would you choose, honestly?
It's not the textbook I have a problem with, it's the photocopier machine that I have to use. No, that's it.
I would only cut some pictures, I think, from the textbook. It looks really nice. Bring just together with the system and just ask students to describe them, because they are colorful and nice. The only thing that I think that I would use, I would never go back to textbook. And believe me that I was the person who started the teaching career using textbooks, actually, because I didn't have any other tools. So I had to adapt it somehow, and it was quite tough for me sometimes, and copying, printing, and so much money and paper that you spend on it, so it's quite... Yeah. I think that only one thing I wanted to mention, how we were talking about how to recognize an Oxinity teacher. I think that all of us, we are always carrying some digital device.
Yeah.
I think that is...
in the past, teachers, before the digital format of the classes, when we used to print, they would carry scissors. So that was a distinctive person.
Yeah.
You remember?
Chopping about,
Yeah, but that is gone. Okay, so do you know what the students appreciate the most, by the way? Can you tell me something from the comments that you receive, the feedback that you receive, what do they appreciate? Mirka, let's hear you.
Okay. I think they appreciate when you're clear. I'm not talking only about the pronunciation, but also like, okay, maybe don't make long sentences for someone who would not be able to understand them. Okay, depending on the level. So to be clear is, I think, one of the most important things. I mean, you can still be, I don't know, native, speaking English, using new words, but still, to be clear, to be able to come, like, express yourself in a clear way, not a very difficult way. Okay, so being positive, another good thing. I mean, if you're positive, then it's like it spreads. Like if you, even if they're in bad mood, I mean, if you try to be a little more positive, then it will affect them as well, of course, in a good way, and it will affect your whole class. So yeah, and then encourage them a lot, because I think they need anyone, and regardless of the level they are, and they need a little bit of encouragement. So it's always good to say, oh yeah, do you know what, it's not important. Oh yeah, it happened to me, and oh yeah, very good, this was very well done. Like they need it, they need to hear this. Yeah, it makes difference.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you guys, Anna and Coral?
Well, in my case, what I noticed regarding the comments that I've received, that they really emphasis on the motivation they get. So I was so happy when I received the comment. I feel like I really want to start English classes when I see. So it's like, one thing is bringing the system, one thing is bringing the language, teaching the language, but when you also can motivate the students, I agree with you, Miroslava, because I think we don't only teach, but we also give some, we also psychologists in kind of.
Exactly, I was gonna say the same. Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
chunk of psychology in all that.
And you need to know the personality. So when I received like, oh, I feel motivated, I was like, I feel engaged. So for me, it's like one of the, I think it's better than money that I can get, because I feel satisfied as a teacher.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
yeah? Coral.
I think one of the things that I said in my blog was that it's Oxinity isn't, the activities themselves aren't just rewarding for the students. They give us reward because they motivate our students. My students always say how quick the time goes. It's so engaging. They enjoy it, and if they're doing it on their lunchtime, after work, it can take up a lot of their time, and it can be, after a long day, it can be difficult. And they always say, it's so much fun. I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work. And that's very rewarding for me.
Absolutely. We have some comments, I think, from students.
Yeah.
What did they
So
say?
yeah, these are some comments that the students have left. And a lot of them talk about the flexibility of the teachers. So, Raquel has made a good point, whoever Raquel is. She says the classes in bars are extremely interesting because it's in an English context, if you like. So it's got noise, it's got music, it's got background noise, you're having a coffee, whatever. And so the teachers kind of, maybe speaking at their natural pace, etc., etc. And lots of them have mentioned the app as well. So the fact they can go on the app and they can, do the little game and stuff like that. Dynamic is a word that you guys mentioned that has appeared, and yeah, it's being able to access the content before and after. So again, going back to the app. So yeah.
Any suggestions from them that we can?
In terms of what they would improve, for the app, going back to the app again. So there's someone who said it's very good. She loves the game, but it would be nice, with to have, if I think you could do it on tablets and iPads and that. You click on the word and it gives you the definition or the meaning. So she would be able to click on the word and it would give the definition. So that would be
great.
I mean,
Very
we do that with the
them.
target language
Absolutely.
anyway, but maybe in a text.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe again, just general improvements, but no, in general, it's all very good.
Okay, all right, great. Do we have any questions or ideas from teachers?
In terms of questions, no, but again, we would, if we want to talk about words from Madrid, the teachers in Madrid, they've come up with a list of words that they think defines Oxinity.
Okay.
So I'll just go down the list: flexibility, unique, modern, inspired, productive, effective, high quality, different. Someone said it makes your life easier and it's adaptable and easygoing and mobile.
Oh, that's good.
So it's good.
All right.
That's good.
Okay, fine. Is there? Do you have anyone to look up to, or someone that is a reference for you from your peers, maybe?
Just Graeme.
Graeme. There is
I just Paul Jarvis. For me, it depends. Like for me, like there's because we've got such a mixed bag of people. There are certain people that I look up to, and I go, you know what? If I want to get better at this, like Anna, if I want to get better at blogging and getting my long tails, you know how much I know you. We've got Cameron in Madrid to find anything to do with social media. The poor guy, I'm at him all the time. And then there's the guys that I like teaching, that have certain styles. Even like, I'm sure Rob will agree this, as a TEFL instructor, you often watch a new teacher teach. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's really cool. There's plenty. To be honest, I get inspiration from all around, especially when I get to observe people, because all teachers have different styles, and it's normally every time I observe a class I see something new that I've never thought of doing in a certain way. Mm-hmm. So it's everywhere for me.
It's the same. I mean, being here in the office, you hear some teachers doing their web classes, their online classes, and you overhear something, you say, oh yeah, and it may be an activity that you've done earlier in the day, and they've done something or added something to it, and it's like, right, I'm stealing that idea, and in my next class I'm doing that,
Yeah, absolutely. How about you guys, Anna, Coral, Milka?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
No, I think that one person that of course Graeme, because he was my TEFL instructor. I think that must to like Graeme, let's say. But anyway, I wanted to tell you, Graeme, that I know that you enjoy observing people, but it's tough being observed because this way you feel pressure, like I need to be even better than I am, But the one person that I really like, once I went on a class with Coral. Hi, Coral.
Oh, hello.
And I was like, I was just definitely lost. It was a class with a group of kids, and she did her job like so natural. I know that it was tough to her too, but I just literally like looked up at her and was like, wow, she's cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Coral, you're the one that I really like as a teacher.
Oh, thank you very much.
So I think it's difficult to deal with kids, and
Yes.
I'm inspired by people who are knowing how to do.
For me, I think because I went on the TEFL course with, I think I learned a lot from him. I think you were very, very controlling of the group, and he had real great explanations. Yeah, I definitely learned a lot from that class.
Cheers. Lots of love going around there.
Okay, and what is or what you would like your contribution to be in Oxinity? How you would like to be remembered here? Just to finish with.
Wow. Well, I guess it would be some. Yeah.
Say Mirk.
Just have my photo on the wall, a shrine.
Well, you have to know that every time you guys write an activity, your name remains.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's nice if I can leave and maybe someone like Coral has actually taken something from one of my classes and enjoyed it. Then then I'll be happy for that. And then maybe the activities. If someone down the line says, oh, I don't know who this Rob is, but I really enjoyed that activity that he created, then I'll be very happy.
I agree with that.
Well, I think in general, we realize it or not, all the teachers, because we are part of the Oxinity system, we are engraved in the history of Oxinity, right? So even after us, whoever will come and the students you're going to teach, it's all, we're building a history for Oxinity. So I guess everyone has a little piece of it, and in there.
True, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, to continue with this idea, which is I really love, I have to tell you, more than 1,000 teachers have contributed to create the Oxbridge English teaching system. I'm not talking about Oxinity now, I'm talking about the teaching system. So it's a lot of people, it's a lot of ideas, it's a lot of heads thinking, and a lot of creativity. And as of Oxinity, there are, in 2016, we started with 2 people Carlos Fung as the first Oxinity member in Barcelona, and Ben Martinez, the first Oxinity member in Madrid. They're still with us, so it's really amazing. And then in 2017, we closed with 40 teachers. 2018 with 90, and our objective for 2019 is reach 300. So imagine how many thinking heads and how the manpower is going to be really amazing. All right, well guys, that was a real pleasure having you. Many thanks. You're all great teachers, great Oxinity members. You should be proud. And we will see you next Friday with the Celtic Connection.
Yeah, next week we're actually doing the Celtic Connection. We're going to have Evie, Ashley, and Cameron's going to join us, and we'll talk about what it's like to be a Scottish person and an Irish person with you.
Excellent.
Looking forward to that one.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, see you later.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks,
See ya.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.